Greetings everyone, my name is Marilyn Roebuck and I'm a Criminal Justice Technologies major at DeKalb Technical College. I hope to persuade you today against capital punishment. The prosecution's statements and presentation of the case was excellent as usual, and the innocent man was executed. Have you ever been accused of something you didn't do? Think about it. What if you were accused of first-degree murder and were sentenced to the death penalty by a jury of your peers? Think it can happen to you? There was evidence in the Troy Davis case that the witnesses recanted their testimony and decided that they would tell the truth. He might have just been innocent, yet the state of Georgia executed him anyway. Like I said, I hope to persuade you today that capital punishment is wrong and an abuse to humanity. The system can make tragic mistakes. I am against the death penalty, as you may see, because capital punishment is cruel and inhumane and can never be justified. One innocent person killed is one too many. The book The Wrong Man, America's Epidemic of Wrongful Death Row Convictions, researched the story of 100 innocent people in the U.S. who found themselves on death row. What was found was eyewitness error, house snitches lying to get their sentences reduced, racism, junk science, prosecutorial misconduct, which is rampant, and incompetent counsel, which is also rampant. Statistics show that there is no unusual rise in murders in those countries that do not allow the death penalty than those that do allow the death penalty. What is the legal definition of capital punishment? The World Book 2002 defines capital punishment as punishment by death for committing certain crimes, such as murder, armed robbery, kidnapping, rape, and treason. The methods of capital punishment that are used would be the electric chair or lethal injection. Capital punishment is considered an eye for an eye. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "An eye for an eye will make the world go blind." Life or death, if you had a chance, which one would you choose? There are 3 reasons why governments believe that they have the right to use capital punishment. However convincing these 3 things may be, they do not justify the killing of a human being for any reason. The first reason the government says would be to protect the safety of its citizens. Yet there are no statistics that prove capital punishment deters murders or any other crimes. To deter others from committing similar offenses. There is no evidence that supports the argument that the death penalty deters criminals from committing death penalty crimes. In fact, there is evidence to the contrary, as I said before. These are statistics that show no rise in murders in countries where the death penalty is not allowed, and I must reiterate that. The third is the government wants to have some form of punishment for the offender. Now, the death penalty is an easy way out for criminals because they are not learning any lesson because they're dead. Life in prison is a punishment. The restriction of daily activities is effective enough at making criminals, even hardened ones, reflect and change their ways. Consider these cases of innocent men, and you tell me if they should have been convicted and whether the executions should have been carried out. Take the case of Ron Williamson, who was a minor league baseball catcher-pitcher who was wrongly convicted in 1988 in Oklahoma for the rape and murder of Deborah Sue Carter. He was sentenced to death. He, along with another man, was released 11 years later with DNA evidence that proved their innocence. Glenn Gore, who testified against Williamson, was ultimately convicted of the murder of Debbie Carter. What this proves is that sometimes the state witnesses have agendas when they testify against someone and may give false testimony. Crazy Joe Spaziano spent 20 years in prison, convicted of a 1973 murder of 18-year-old Laura Lynn Harris. He was almost executed and would not be alive today if it was not for the Miami Herald newspaper. Imagine that a newspaper had to do investigation in order to get evidence to try to assist Spaziano. The key witnesses in the trial revealed only information under hypnosis. The jury was never told that witnesses' memory was enhanced by hypnosis. Spaziano's execution was set. But if attorneys and supporters he has now keep being persistent, one day Spaziano may be a free man. Take the case of Kyle v. Whitley in a U.S. Supreme Court case where Kyles was convicted of murder. The police and the state never disclosed to the defense inconsistent statements made by so-called witnesses. This witness actually incriminated himself. There are also inconsistent descriptions by eyewitnesses and other parts of potentially exculpatory evidence. Every person in society has the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Capital punishment goes against the saying, two wrongs don't make a right. We criticize criminals for breaking the law, yet we degrade ourselves to the very same level when we resort to capital punishment. The system can make tragic mistakes. The death penalty doesn't seem to apply to people with money. So it seems that having a bad lawyer will get you a guilty sentence whether you did the crime or not. Violent crimes are actually higher in death penalty jurisdictions. Here are some reasons for opposing capital punishment. Over 100 people on death row have been released with evidence of their innocence. DNA is available in less than 10% of all homicides. Sometimes the science used for evidence is flawed. The death penalty is more expensive than life in prison. It is not a guarantee that we will not execute innocent people. In the last 35 years in the U.S., 130 people have been released from death row because they were exonerated by DNA evidence. These were all people found guilty beyond a reasonable doubt and then found innocent due to other evidence or supporters that fought for them. Thank you for listening.